This is Adam from Precise Pet Care. Welcome to our financial reports training video. We are on the resources reports page. This is where we can run our financial reports. We have visit-based reports from the visits tab. Those would be the date that the service happened. Invoice-based reports from the invoices tab. That would be the date the services were invoiced. And then transaction-based reports from the transactions tab. That would be the date which the payment was received. Looking at our visit reports, we have our total earnings. So that is the total amount that the business received. Sitter earnings with or without tips. That would be the amount that you paid to your sitters, as tips are looked at as pass-through. They are never added to the earnings for the business in any case. Total minus sitter earnings are the gross earnings minus the sitter earnings. Again, tips are not counted in that. Visit balance due is the amount of money that clients owe you for visits based on the date of visit. The number of visits uses the number of visits instead of the total amount of the visits when you're looking at the numbers in the reports. And then the sales summary is a way to see if visits have been invoiced or not in a certain period of time, and the total gross amount for those invoices and the net amount as well. And let's look at a couple of these reports here. Let's do a gross report, and we're going to look at a summary mode. In summary mode, we'll show you the totals for the grouping of whatever you select group by for. So we have different group by options. For now, I'm just going to choose month, and I'm going to do last year. And we will see a summary of last year's total earnings grouped by month. And you can see it shows us from January to December in order. If we went to high to low or low to high mode, we could see those numbers based on the totals instead of the dates. And if we're grouped by something else, say if we want to group by time block, we can see which time blocks made us the most money last year. And then we can also compare. We can compare to the previous period or to certain ranges of time. Let's just do the previous period now. And we can see which time blocks compared to the previous year made the most money. And you can see the percent change over time. You may add a new time block in a year, and then of course that would be a 100% change in the course of a year. Let's also look at a chart, and let's look at month view for a chart and run that report. And the chart view is similar information to the summary view, except you can see it visually. And here we see last year compared to the year before, month by month. Now, if we want to look at a details view, a detail will show every single item, in this case, every single visit. And we wouldn't necessarily want to show all of last year because of the number of visits, but if, say, we showed the last week, we can then get a breakdown, and I'm going to hide some of these so it doesn't take up as much room on the schedule. Let me see, add-on surcharges. All right, so details report for the last month. And this is where you can see the actual individual visits if you need to look through those. And whatever you chose to group by, you get a line down at the bottom for the groups. Since we are grouped by month and we're only showing visits for a single month, there's only one group here. So the sitter earnings, what we recommend to do your sitter earnings is the billing payroll page. And what that page does is it allows you to save your payroll. And if there are changes to payroll, say if a client paid a tip for a visit that you'd already paid out for, the sitter would get that automatically in their next pay period. Now, if you're running just these sitter earnings reports, these are just going to be the numbers at that moment, which are good if you're looking over the course of maybe the last year, but not so good if you're running at a time that something could potentially change. A tip could potentially be added at a later date. So a sitter earnings report you typically group by your sitter. So let's group by sitter. And I'm going to run a summary report. So we'll do a sitter earnings report for last week. And again, you can do high to low or low to high. And let's look at a number of visits report. And let's do a chart again. And let's group by month. And we'll do last year compared to the previous year. So with the number of visits report, instead of the total amount, you're going to see the numbers using the number of visits. Now, they're going to be very similar relative, the amounts to the number of visits, but it also gives you a better idea of the actual workload that you may be doing. If we ever want to add filters, filters are searches. So you can add one or more searches. Say we wanted to add, let's say, number of visits where the total price is greater than 0. And if we run that report, so that'll remove any visits that would have been canceled or not charged for any particular reason. Another way to do that would be we could add a filter for status does not match cancel. So that would be another way to do it. And of course, you have many different things that you can add filters for if you want to limit the amount of information which is in the report. I'm going to jump over to the Invoices tab. And again, the invoices are based on the date which service was invoiced. So we have gross total and then net total. The net total would be, if you're using the accrual method, that would be what you would want to use. The balance due would be invoices which still have a balance. And then the aging report would show you that those invoices with a balance over time. So let's just do a quick aging report. And we can see any invoices which are due. It tells you how far overdue they are. And of course, you can group. Say we want to group by client. Then we could have a client by client breakdown for those invoices. And our gross total, similar to the visit reports, except again, they're based on different dates, the dates that the invoices were created. And if we look for maybe all-time year report. So this would show you just year by year how much had been made from the invoices. And again, as with the visit reports, you can add filters. Filters would be based on the invoice settings. And I also want to point out, after you run a report, you can either export that report to a spreadsheet, you could print that report, or you could also save that report. Say you're running a report that you want to run that same report again. You can save that report. You can add a name for that report. And then when you go back to this tab on the reports page, you'll be able to run that same report with a single click instead of needing to adjust your chart settings each and every time. And I'm just going to jump over to the Transactions tab. Transactions are based on when you receive payment, also known as the cash method. This would be the most common way. If you're doing taxes, you would probably want to be using the cash method. So we have payments. That would be the total amount that you received. Unapplied payments, payments which have not been fully applied to invoices, so they still have a balance on them. And tip amounts. The tip amounts for the visits would be different than the tip amounts for the transactions, because the time that the tips are paid may not be the date that the tips are for. So if we just ran an unapplied payments report for this year, this will show us any payments, any clients that still have a balance that could be applied to a future invoice. And of course, we could probably group that by client, would make more sense than grouping by month. All right, thank you for watching.